Hello, and welcome to our midweek devotion time at Bologna United Methodist Church. I'm Pastor Lauren, and I am so glad that you're with us. Today we'll be finishing up a short series we've been doing on Philippians, which has been what we've been learning about out in the parking lot on Sunday mornings, but I just want to offer these learnings to others who are part of the congregation as well. Before we delve into Philippians 4, which has many verses that I imagine you are familiar with, I do want to offer a couple of announcements first. This Sunday is All Saints Day, where we celebrate those who have gone on to the church triumphant in our congregation and others in your life, loved ones, others who have shown you what it looks like to be a faithful follower of Christ. So we will toll a bell to remember those we have lost, and it will be a day of remembrance, but also a celebration, because we'll also join together in communion, where we remember that Christ gathers all of us at the table, those who have gone before us and us today, and we see that we are a part of the communion of saints. And so I hope you'll join us at 10 a.m. in the parking lot for worship. It'll be a very special service, and then we will have small groups afterwards around 10:45. Our children, tweens, and youth will continue to learn about Zacchaeus, and our adults will have a conversation about All Saints Sunday and why this is a tradition for us, a high and holy day. And Sharon and John Nichols will share a little bit about Dia de los Muertos, which is a celebration that you might have heard of before, Day of the Dead, that they have gotten to participate in before in their travels. So we look forward to them sharing in the adult Sunday school class about that. Also, you'll be receiving lots of emails this week about ways you can participate in our congregation, but I do want to mention, especially you'll be getting an email about the volunteer needs that we have for the next few weeks. We are, as a relaunch team, making plans to return to indoor worship, but before that is official, we have to know that we have people who are willing to volunteer to serve as ushers and greeters, to clean before and after worship so we can make sure our space is safe, and to help with some other things like lay reading and the audiovisual booth. So if you are willing to help, please respond to that email and be sure to let us know that you're available to help when we return to indoor worship on Sunday mornings. I do want to offer a caveat to that also, that even when we move indoors, there will still be opportunities for people to participate at the level of safety that they feel is necessary for themselves or their family. We'll continue to offer online worship and a parking lot option, so please be on the lookout for information about that as well. Finally, I do want to enter into this time of reading Philippians chapter 4, exploring it together, and I invite you first into a time of prayer. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks that you are with us, that you continue to be with us as we long for your presence in our lives, as we long to be in community with one another, as we seek your will and your way. As we explore Philippians chapter 4 and what Paul has to share with us, might we be open to your wisdom and your leading this day. Amen. So we have been looking through the book of Philippians a little bit over the last few weeks, and I want to highlight a couple things about Philippians chapter 4 because it is a summary of what has happened in chapters 1 through 3. If there's one thing that Paul is, it's very thematic. He's good at staying on point. All throughout Philippians, we have heard about Paul encouraging unity as he tells them to be of one mind. He continues to have an attitude of great joy and of praise and thanksgiving. And these are important things for us to know about Paul and his emphasis in this letter that he's writing to the church at Philippi while he is in prison. So remember, he has been in prison. He is writing to them, encouraging them from afar because he can't be with them. He begins chapter 4 with a greeting again to them and encouraging them in the way that they should be in unity with one another. And then he goes on to offer some advice to Euodia and Syntyche, two women in the church at Philippi. But this advice isn't just for them, it's for all of us. He encourages them to, though they've struggled with each other, to remember that they are co-workers of the gospel And we need this reminder more than ever, I think, in our world as we're preparing for an election, as we're preparing for other ways that people are disgruntled and tired of living life in a pandemic way. We need to remember that we are called to be unified, to put Christ first, and to know that that is our calling. I think this is really helpful as Paul continues to dig into that theme. He is very apparent, makes it very apparent that what is most important is that we are a people of communal faith. Our individual faith matters, and we are called to know God and love God on our own, but we also have to be sure that we are caring for one another and putting one another first. So I think that's super, super helpful. He goes on in verse 4 to say, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice." And then he says in verse 6, "Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God." Paul is a guy of extreme emotion here, telling us to rejoice not just sometimes, but always, and to not be anxious about anything. I get a little bit thrown off sometimes by Paul's enthusiasm in this way, because his calling to always rejoice and to not worry about anything make me feel challenged. I am having a hard time imagining that I could rejoice always, even in the hardest of times. But he reminds us that that is our calling. And he emphasizes this in a part of the passage that I think is one of the most well-known, though this whole chapter 4 of Philippians, has so many verses that we are familiar with and that we love. So I encourage you to check out this whole chapter. But in verses 10 through 13, he says, "I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. Not that I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." So as Paul is writing a letter to the Philippians, he's thanking them because they've given him financial gift. Epaphroditus has brought them a gift along with news of what's going on at the church at Philippi and in this community of faith. And so he's thanking them for that they've remembered him. But then he goes on to explain how he has been transformed as a person of faith. He says, "I have learned to be content in everything." He explains a little bit about the swing of emotions he's felt and experiences he's had. And then he says this well-known verse, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Philippians 4:13. I'm sure you've heard that verse quoted so many times. And sometimes we use it as a verse to say, like, I can be the best I can be because Christ strengthens me, or I'm going to succeed in this area because Christ is strengthening me. I'm going to have success and good luck, and everything's going to go great because of that. And that's not exactly what Paul is saying. Remember, Paul is in prison. Things aren't going great for him. He isn't sure if he's going to be executed or if he's going to make it out alive. What he's saying is that he has learned that Christ's strength is with him in the hardest of times. That Christ is with him when he is in prison, when he is hungry, when he is in need of grace and assurance. That Christ is not just there when we're called to dream bigger dreams, but instead that when we are crushed, when we are persecuted, when we are defeated, Christ still gives us strength. Life is messy for us. There are unpredictable moments and disappointments. And God still continues to offer us strength. God hunkers down with us in our tough times and leads us through pain, leads us through challenge. Christ gives us the strength to survive when we are weak, when we're in need, when things aren't going as planned. not just when we need to win a football game or are up for a big promotion. Though we do find Christ offering us peace and comfort in those moments, it's important for us to remember that Christ is with us in the tough times too, even in this time. I hope you will take some time to read Philippians chapter 4. It is such a beautiful passage. It offers so much hope as we are challenged to be people who rejoice always, who find contentment in all things. This is our calling, and so I hope that you feel inspired to trust in God even in these moments that we are in. Friends, I do hope that you will join us for worship at 10 a.m. on Sunday, that you will continue to be on the lookout, reading your email for ways that you can get involved in our congregation through giving of your tithes and offerings, but also through the food pantry. We're always collecting canned goods for Spirit of Bologna, as well as turkeys for Thanksgiving. There are so many ways to grow in your discipleship and fellowship with others, so I hope you'll be on the lookout for that.